Please be seated for the readings. And I promise this is not a mini sermon, but I do want to introduce our first reading just in the context. Because as you know, you can, a Bible verse, one Bible verse without its context by itself is actually a con. And even sometimes the larger chunks that we hear on a Sunday lectionary are difficult to digest outside of their bigger context. And this is one of those few times. This is the story of Abraham and the sacrifice of Isaac. And at first glance, this story, it's incredibly disturbing to our modern ears. But if we look at what it meant to the people who wrote it and who would have heard it at that time, it turns out not to be a story about violence, but a story about the end of violence. So this was about 2000 BC. It was the Bronze Age. And it's Abraham, the founder of the Jewish faith, the Muslim faith, and our Christian faith, therefore, was called by God to form the nation of Israel to be a light to the nations and bring all of us back into right relationship with God. Everyone around them at that time was sacrificing people and children for good crops, for success in battle. It was happening everywhere. And so what this story, one of the things this story is about is God telling Abraham. God is coming to Abraham in the context he understands. He would have understood this sacrifice thing. But in the end, God says, I am not like the other gods. I do not demand the blood of your children. So it's actually sort of the key historical moment when God says to God's people, no, this is not who we are to be. One of the other aspects of this is that it is a clear indication of God's providence, of God providing. Abraham, at the end of the story, doesn't name the place Abraham is faithful. God isn't a cruel person trying to test Abraham with this incredibly violent demand of offering his son on the altar. God knows Abraham's heart. We just prayed, Almighty God, unto you all hearts are open, all desires known. From you no secrets are hid. God knows Abraham's heart. This is trying to convince Abraham once and for all that God is faithful, because in the broader context of these chapters that lead up to this, Abraham has been denying God's faithfulness over and over again. He has done what God told him not to. He has lied about his wife to Pharaoh. Abraham has no trust in God, really. And so this is God really, really making the point that God will provide. Trust in God. And at the end of the story, Abraham doesn't name the place, Abraham is faithful. Abraham names it, the Lord will provide. So that is one of the other key things about this story. So as you hear it today, I hope you will listen to it with that perspective in mind.